Let's talk about one negative side of the four-post lift. The internet and YouTube is filled with positivity in this world, but the real reality is nobody talks about reality of a four-post lift. There is a major downfall that you run into while running this four-post lift, and the big downfall is small cars. Case in point, this is a 2017 Chevy Cruze that Jesse just picked up. It is a 1.4 liter turbo edition, and unfortunately our Chevy Equinox has suffered the classic I pump oil out the exhaust, and it is what it is. Yes, I have tried the PCV fix. Yes, I have tried thicker oil. No, it is not blowing it out through the crankcase. Basically, it has bad rings, and it pumps about half a quart of oil out of the exhaust for every 8 hours that you drive it. It's a lost cause. So, we picked this up. Now, why are small cars the problem with a four-post lift? Let me flip you guys around and show you a few things. First problem. Small cars have small clearance. If you still have your safety plates on the end, which you really should, the moment that you pull this car in, that air dam is going to hit them. So if you're trying to pull the car far enough forward to get to the rear tire without having to fight with the post, then inevitably that air dam always gets hit. It's not a matter of if, it always does. The next thing you're going to run into is, case in point, right now I'm working on rust stuff that's in the back of this car, and the moment you jack it up, the whole front drops onto these safety blocks. And I've even had cars where that ends up with the radiator support coming down on this corner, and as you can see, it's scratched off. That's because we had the whole car jacked up before we realized we were lifting the entire thing with the front radiator support. Yeah, we put it down as quick as possible and then rolled the car back about an inch so that that would go in front of it. Now, I know the first thing that somebody's going to say is, cut off a little bit. And that's all well and good, but then the fix creates the problem for the next vehicle. Because the reason this is so high is so that when you have a large truck on here, it can't climb the wall easily. And the moment you cut down to, say, the height of this 2x4 behind here that I use as a wheel chuck, your 16-inch or bigger tire easily can climb that, and that becomes your next safety hazard. Now, with that being said, let's talk about jacking points and other stuff. So, small car means all of your jacking points end up lining up here in the center of this. That jacking plate is basically useless other than in the back. And so you end up having to play this Macarena back and forth of scissor jacks and very small little 2-ton jacks and everything else rather than just being able to use the center jacking plate. It's a big giant pain in the neck, and it's a small car problem. If we come back here, we run into the next small car jacking problem. So as you can see, I've got that into the trailing arm back here. And the reason why I've had to do that is because small car equals small clearance. So right here is where you normally would jack, except for that lines up right on the edge of this. You actually can't get a jack in underneath it with enough landing zone to be able to lift it where you're supposed to. So inevitably, you end up having to center lift or side-to-side lift with multiple jacks instead of just jack it up where it is that you need to. Because keep in mind, if we're dealing with rust belt, basically every bit of body from here to there, this is not a jacking point, even though it was designed that way from factory. You have to jack from either the cross member or the trailing arm support on a small car if you're in the rust belt. So there's another issue that we run into. Another quibble that we run into, we'll grab this spray paint can as a showing, is, yet again, small car, small clearance. I have this entire thing jacked all the way as high as that jack will go, and yet I still cannot fit that paint can in there in order to be able to do the rust prevention coat. I have to put the can like this, and inevitably that means that the can halfway through doesn't work right, and so it takes 2 cans to do what should be a 1-can job for rust prevention. And God forbid you need to do any kind of welding up into there, because now you're over the top of this fighting with whether you actually fit in order to do stuff. And if we come in underneath, see right here, I've got this cutesy little bugger. That 2-ton right there is because what you have to do, if we come under the vehicle, give me just a second here. Okay. So, remember, we got a jack on the subframe because of the fact we're dealing with a main vehicle here. So, if I've got that jacking plate right there, from there to there, I've only got 5 inches. I have to put a 2-ton bottle jack in, get it so it lifts about 2 inches, and then put the other bottle jack next to it to lift it to where I can finally get the tire off. And when I want to take it back down, I've got to undo that down to the 2-ton so that I can pull that jack out to be able to pull the 2-ton jack out. I realized while shooting that video clip that it might not make sense what I'm saying. This is a drop down that I actually custom welded so that that jack assembly would fit underneath a Chevy Equinox. Underneath this Chevy Cruze, I actually have to have this little bottle jack that jacks it 3 inches before I can finally actually get the jack that I prefer to use into place. Hopefully that explains a little bit better what I'm talking about. And a lot of people are going to say, well, what about the sliding air jacks? Well, that doesn't work either, because the sliding air jack has 6 inches worth of up, which means that it actually won't fit under this Chevy Cruze if I had one. That's why I've never bothered spending all the money to buy one, is because on the Equinox and this Chevy Cruze, I literally would have to remove it in order to be able to put this small car up on here. And if we come back here, we've got the same quibble. As you can see, this side's a little bit off, but there's your jacking point there, lining up there. And so if you put the jack there, you've got about 1/4 of the jack that's going to be off the edge of this. And that's part of the problem with a 4-post lift, is the closer you get to the edge, the more the lift will bow. This entire section here, you can actually see it right now. With this car lifted, if I get to the point I'm just about level with it, you can see how high that edge is versus this edge right here. It's only almost an inch of deflection. So what happens when you're that close to the edge is that as you jack this, it deflects the top of the jack that way, and the whole car actually wants to tip sideways. It's not safe by any means, and outright dangerous. So again, you have to multi-jack. You jack up this, and then you have to go and put jack stands over here, and then you've got 3 things in the way instead of just 1. It's a big giant pain in the neck. I wanted to end this video talking about a couple of other little workarounds that you can do. I've seen other YouTubers where basically they make like a little drive-up area that the front tire goes into that basically lifts everything about 4 inches. And if I was working on the same car, same style of car consistently and religiously, I totally probably would go that route. I think that's actually brilliant. Down in the description, I'll post a link for the 2 jacks that I showed in this video, because The jack with the built-in lock and assembly and stuff is total game changer once you own one. It's only about 4 tons, but I tell you what, I have jacked up all kinds of different things and locked that in. And the other thing about that is it works amazing on gravel because it's a solid plate on the bottom. It's not hollow like a lot of other jacks are. And so on gravel, it is game changer. Totally a safety device that you need to have if you work outdoors. I'll also post a link for the little red jack. That's actually about my third or my fourth one because inevitably I loan it out to people because it's useful on tons of different things. If you need to jack sideways on a frame in order to move something over, it works amazing. If you got tires that are rusted on to the point that you need to chain and jack it out in order to pop the tires. They work great for that. But inevitably that means that they usually get destroyed at some point. So don't judge the fact that I've been through a lot of them. Judge the fact that I use the snot out of them. Anyways, what do you think of Jesse's 130,000 mile Chevy Cruze with their 1.4 liter turbo? If you know anything about these 2017s, they were basically made for about 4 years before Chevy moved on. Tell me, anything I should be worried about? Anything I should be checking while I got it in the garage? Anything that I should know for the future? Have a good day, and I hope this helps somebody thinking about buying a 4-post lift.